to my podcast on real relationships. My name is Sophia Passon and I am a relationship expert, international speaker and best-selling author of the book Your Other Half. I decided to start this podcast because, in my opinion, relationships are currently not being portrayed as what they really are. Whether you're watching the news, TV or social media, the perception given to people is wrong. And my aim is to talk about what happens in the real world, talk about real stories and listen to what real people think, do or go through, as opposed to creating expectations of something that doesn't actually exist. I may not agree with everything that is said by my guests, but it is their chance to express their opinions and their stories. And here today, we've got Vie Portland, and we are going to talk about the relationship with ourselves. Hi, Vie, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. So, for the benefit of everybody, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
I run a community interest company. I teach self-esteem and confidence to children, young people and women. And I started that quite organically through developing, I used to hate who I was. And through developing my own tools, I changed how I saw my life and how I acted. And then I started teaching it to other people because they'd seen the change in me.
So obviously the relationship with ourselves is key. So hating yourself doesn't help you very much, does it?
No, not at all. And it meant that I always felt that everything was my fault. So people could get away with treating me badly because I thought I deserved it. I didn't, I really didn't. I was in difficult relationships where partners knew my weaknesses and would play up on them. And that would exacerbate the feelings of hatred and unworthiness. And it is just an awful place to be in. But far more common than I thought it was when I was living through it, because most people don't talk about it.
And that's what I was just about to say. People don't really understand nor get it. To give an example to a degree, the number of times I hear and see single people saying how they want to meet somebody, they won't be happy until they meet that person, and actually they will never meet that person until they're happy on their own.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like women that want to lose weight. When I'm a size 10, everything will be perfect. It's like, well, no, it won't, because it's your relationship with yourself that needs to change. And it's true. I've been with my partner for over a decade now. Before, when I was in relationships, I very much felt like, oh no, I needed a man. I can't be without a man. But now I'm the cake. He's just the icing. I can give or take him. I love him. But, I'm the important one.
Isn't it? People look to somebody else or something else to complete them. And the truth is, they've got to find that completion themselves. Somebody else or that something else just adds to the party.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lovely bonus, isn't it? Yes, there's great things about being in a relationship if it's a good relationship. But I'm definitely not going to, if we were to break up, I'm not going to pine away. I'm not going to rush into the next man that offers anything, or woman, or whoever comes up in my life. Then it's, I love him. He's a great guy, but I'm great too. And I'm very happy with who I am. He's, like I said, he's just the bonus.
And I think I'm just going to share a bit of a personal story here, because I was shocked by what the person said to me. And you see where I'm going with this in a second. I recently went to see an endocrinologist in France. He's a man, he's roughly 65, he's from North Africa. So judgment from the outside would argue that he's probably quite set in his way and strict, okay? And I explained the issue, which is extreme bloating. I'm not going to bore you with the ins and outs. And I can't lose weight. I've been trying to lose weight for 3 years. So I explained all of that and miscarriage 3 years ago, blah, blah, blah. And his answer was, to be honest with you, I can see there's nothing wrong with you and your hormones because I've got perky eye and, I don't know, healthy hair, apparently, and my skin, whatever. He says, it's in your head. And he didn't mean it nastily. He was actually the most open I've seen a man be. He said, it's because you haven't got over it. And he said, I bet you hate your belly. And I was like, I do. And he said, that's all it is. You need to get over it. And the weight would go. And he stopped waiting. I was quite taken aback because he's right. But
Way of doing it.
65 years old, I really was not expecting this.
Yeah. But it's true, isn't it? You know, I do these body positive parenting workshops, and the women come on and talk about the way their bodies are. You know, I hate this overhang, I hate my C-scar. And so I said, can look at it from this perspective. I said, if I took away that C-scar and that meant I also took away your child, how do you feel? Oh no, I wouldn't want that to happen. I thought I would love to have a C-scar. I can't have children. I would have loved to have had children, and I will happily swap my nice smooth belly for your C-scar if I get a child out of it. And I think it's just, we're so conditioned, we're surrounded by messages telling us we're not good enough, that we automatically think that there's something wrong, rather than think about what's good. You know, no, this isn't, you know, worthy of an oil painting, unless you're a very talented artist, of course, but there is still good in it. You know, it's a badge of honor almost.
And I think it's kind of like a two-way thing, isn't it? You say it's not worthy of an oil painting. Well, actually, beauty is in the eye of a beholder, isn't it? So you don't know that. And going back to the belly side of things, I think that for me, it's because I'm not used to being bigger. I've been quite slim all my life. And most people would say to me, I'm not fat anyway. But it's kind of like, I want to go back to what it was. I never go back to what it was. And it's only once I properly accept it, but sometimes it takes time. You have to process the information. You've got to process how you're reacting. And actually, it highlights that we're on a continuous journey, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've done a lot of work on myself, and I continue to do so, because although I feel that I'm quite well-rounded in the way I live my life, you know, I know that things will come up, and I think, I'm going to learn about that, and I'm going to see how that affects me. And because I think it is important that we continue learning and that we're open to that. I think so many people are, no, this is the way it is, it's the way it's got to be. You know, and I was like that. I did used to be like that. But now I think it's wonderful to be able to see so many opportunities, you know, about how you could blossom even more as a person. And that's really important to know, that no matter how brilliant you think you are in this one moment, I might do something and then be even more brilliant in 10 more moments. You know, there's so much opportunity and so much growth to experience.
But I think the problem is that, you know, whilst I'm aware, because of what I do, that experiences are, you know, just like literally little milestones, and we have to go through them. But sometimes a lot of people, we dwell on the negative experiences, and I get that. There's an element of grief and acceptance that needs to happen too, and that doesn't necessarily happen straight away.
Yeah, no, I think there's, you know, we're brought up with all of these ideals that you're meant to meet, and it doesn't matter whether you actually want them or not. You still feel a failure if you don't meet them. And it's, you know, it's an odd way of living. You know, well, no, I don't really want to be married or have children, but that's what I'm meant to do. You know, that means I'm a success. And it's something else that we need to accept. You know, just because I haven't had children doesn't mean that my life is any less. It just means my life is different.
Exactly.
And that's what we need to encourage others to see and to think. You know, yes, I'm sad about not having children, but then I'm also aware of all of the things I've been able to do because I haven't had children. And, you know, I'm really happy with that. And I think we need to help other people see that too.
Yeah, and it's about dealing with our own stuff to a degree, because like you, well, I didn't know until you said miscarriage, or I could never have carried to term. They then introduced the menopause, which was very exciting when it happens overnight, where you're fine one minute, you want to kill the world the next. But they then gave me a 2-year window to get pregnant, and well, for me, the father is more important. And even if we did split up, once the child is born, I'd like the child to be conceived in that kind of environment. Therefore, it's not happened. As you just say, okay, so I haven't got a bloodline, but it's pushing me in different ways to give a different type of legacy, in helping people more and in different ways that are affordable and whatever. So it's not always a bad thing, but it's society that dictates that it is or it isn't.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, I think however anyone chooses to have a baby, I mean, I've known people that go to sperm donors and things like that. And if it works for them, then, and they're happy, then that's good. It's just if they feel pressured to do it, not because they want to, but because they feel pressured. And again, that's not feeling, when we don't feel good about ourselves, it's far easier to let other people manipulate us and tell us that we're doing things wrong if we're not doing it the way they expect.
And this is the thing, if we understand ourselves and we fix as much as we can the evolving relationship with ourselves, we really know what is right for us, what's not right for us. We really know who is right for us and who isn't, because that's another thing, you know, having the right environment.
Yeah, no, completely. I mean, like I said before, when I didn't like who I was in awful relationships, both with partners and with friends. You know, I was very much the scapegoat. I was used a lot. You know, I was always designated driver. I was always the one that picked up everyone. All of these other ways that people take advantage of you. But I thought that's the only way they would like me, because I didn't like myself. Whereas now, obviously not everyone likes me, because nobody likes everybody, you know, and that's fine. But now it's like, well, it's a shame, but, you know, there's obviously no big draw either way for us to be best buddies. So why stress about it?
Exactly. So what was the trigger? What made you make the change, the shift or whatever?
Well, I moved back to Southampton. I left home. I grew up in Southampton mostly, but I left home as soon as I could and moved to London and then to the West Country and backwards and forwards. And then I lost a job and I moved back to Southampton temporarily. And that was 20 years ago.
I was just about to say, you are still there, you know that, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I hated the city. I hated growing up here. But now in hindsight, I didn't hate the city. I hated the people I was sharing the city with, and their views of it. And now, since I've moved back, and the first few years were really difficult, but then I got to a stage where my mental health and my physical health both got far worse. And I reached a point where it was either keep things the same, end things, or change things.
Yeah.
Obviously, I'm not a ghost, so I didn't end things.
Yeah.
So I had to change them. And it was just, I started challenging myself to do things that I never would have done before. Because before I grew up being told I was fat and ugly, I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that. So I started doing the things that I'd been told I couldn't do. And some of them I did really well, and some of them I didn't, because nobody's good at everything. And it just, I think I'd got to the stage in life where I thought, well, this isn't going to kill me. I'd almost killed me. But, you know, so that was it really. Yeah, it was death or change. And I went for change. So, yeah, that was it. And I make it sound quite easy, but it really wasn't. It was quite hard to do so. But yeah, sheer bloody mindedness really, about wanting to not stay the same. I didn't want to be in a situation where I was thinking about not being here anymore. And so so that was what I had to do to change things. So
and I think this is the thing. Sometimes, you know, it takes something like, I'm not going to say something like that, because to a degree there wasn't a massive major event in your life that made it happen, but the stark reality of what it is, and actually confronting that reality, which a lot of people don't do. They'd rather put it at the back of their head and plod, because they don't want to confront what's scary and what might hurt. And actually, once you've only got to do it once you've done it and you've committed to make something else happen, that it becomes so much easier. It's that first kind of safe encounter, I suppose.
Yeah, I think for me, as I've gone on, there's obviously still things that you have to deal with as life happens.
Obviously.
But I think because I've been through that time where I was so close to leaving, now it's like it's not that bad. So it's a very sort of harsh curve to judge things on, but it's worked for me.
But to be fair, sometimes we do have to put things into perspective, and that's myself included. If I'm really tired or hormonal, I'll really see something that is really not that important as something quite major, and it isn't. So you've got to remind yourself that in the grand scheme of things, is this really bad? No, it really isn't.
Important to, these things do feel harsh at the time, and it's important to acknowledge that, but also, like you say, to have some perspective and go, okay, it feels harsh right now, but once I've slept on it, once I've thought about it a bit, then it won't feel so bad. And I think sometimes people get so caught up in the negativity that they don't think anything's going to change.
And they spiral down.
Yeah. And we can spiral, it happens. But I think for me, so I have a mental health problem and have had most of my life. But now because I know who I am, I know that if I am having a day where my mental health is struggling, it's a day where my mental health is struggling. It's not my life. It's not the week. It's the day. And I will allow myself to feel whatever I need to feel. And then the next day I'll see how I am, and I'll be a little bit of a seesaw as to whether I stay in it or move on. But by day 3, I know that I now have to do something to change it, because if I allow it to go past day 3, it becomes day 30.
Yeah.
And that's because I've learnt about myself and how I have to deal with it.
And I think this is one of the things that people need to realise is that I'm not contradicting myself here, but sometimes there's too much positivity. What I mean by that is that false positivity, when you're really not feeling it, will make you feel worse. And I know that if I'm in a bad place, instead of trying to do affirmation, let's say you're having a day where you're not feeling particularly attractive, there's no point trying to convince yourself that you're feeling good when you're really not. It's far better to accept that you're grumpy for the day, and as you say, to move on the following day. Because sometimes forcing positivity when you're really not feeling it just damages you more, because you don't face up to, okay, why am I feeling this way? What can I do about it? Because we're all going to have problems. We're all going to have drama. We're all going to have bad days. What matters is how we react. If we react in a way that say, okay, I'll be grumpy for today, maybe tomorrow, but we'll assess that then, you're in control of that.
It does feel, when you're in the middle of that, you don't feel in control, do you? It feels all encompassing. You feel like you're just being enveloped in this bleakness. So it does feel like we're not in control. And I do understand your thoughts on the positivity. I think if it's false positivity, then it's like covering a pile of poo in glitter and saying it's pretty, but I think it's also, sometimes you have to do something that is more positive to help you break that cycle. Yeah. So, whether it's going to see a friend, obviously that's difficult in this current time, or for me, I've got loads of books that I will turn to that will help. So finding something that works.
I think it's about awareness, isn't it? Because you know yourself, so you know what works for you. I know myself, so I know what works for me. And to a degree, that's why this podcast exists. That's why I interview people, because we're having that conversation. So someone who's never thought about it like that, they're now aware. So they can stop and think, okay, how do I react? And what will I do next time? It's when there's no awareness, if you don't know what you don't know, you don't know. You can't do anything about it. You just think it's normal. And that's where we need to talk about some of these stuff that's sometimes a bit controversial and difficult.
I do, when I run my workshops with women, I do and when I coach one-to-one, I do some stuff around intuitive eating, and people will often eat rather than look at their feelings, but they don't make that connection, or they'll say, I'm an emotional eater.
Yeah.
But they'll then carry on being an emotional eater rather than going, okay, but what are my emotions that are causing me to eat? And I try to encourage people to think about what they really need. You know, are you going for that chocolate because you feel sad? Instead of going for the chocolate, which might make you feel sadder, can you call a friend or something? You know, why are you going for that another slab of bread? Is it because you need a hug? You know, and to try and find those reasons. And sometimes we just want the bloody chocolate. Exactly. You know, have it, enjoy it, you know, but be aware of why you're choosing to eat these things. You be aware of how you're feeling. And even if you still don't beat yourself up about it, if you do then go and eat something, but be aware of why you're doing it so that you can then address it before it happens again. But don't try and address it in that moment, just acknowledge it and think about it, you know, whilst you're eating the slab of bread or the chocolate or whatever.
And I think, you know, this is the ultimate aim, really. It's self-acceptance. And that includes the weird quirks.
Yeah.
Because they are what makes us.
Yeah. It would be so boring if we were all the same. Yeah, and we all say that, and we all say, oh, we want to be unique, but we want to be unique as long as we're like everybody else, because that's where we think that will make us feel accepted. But when you get to a stage in your life when you are happy with who you are, people notice, and some people will have a problem with it because they can't ever foresee that happening to them. So people have a tendency to blame the person rather than look at their own issues. Yeah. But by being yourself, you're also giving permission to other people to be themselves too. And that's wonderful. Wouldn't the world be amazing if we were all much more open and honest and accepting of each other, you know, as we are, you know, whether we're tiny or large or short or tall or disabled or able-bodied, whatever colour, whatever religion, if we just, I'm a human, you're a human, have we got things in common? And that's it. That's all we need to know, you know.
And sometimes, you know, actually feeling different to others can be nice.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's, I know before I felt good about myself, when I would go out in groups of people, if I was likely to meet someone I didn't know, I'd be like, well, they won't want to talk to me. I've got nothing interesting to say, or that they'll just think I'm copying someone else, or, you know, they'll think I'm really boring and stupid. Whereas now, I'm you know, on the introvert scale, as much as I do public speaking and all that sort of thing, I'm much more of I'd rather have a decent conversation than small talk person. Yeah. But now I know that I can go anywhere and I can converse with anyone and be able to be who I am and talk about what I know and what I love, and be able to ask them about what they know and love and be able to respond accordingly. You know, whereas there was a time before when I couldn't do that.
And I think I've just had a bit of a weird analogy come to my head, because for those of you who obviously are listening to us, you don't know this, but we have got a third guest. We have a cat that has joined us. And as you grab the cat, I just thought to myself, do you know what? I mean, obviously, I'm not very good in cat psychology. I'm not claiming to know anything about cats beyond what I know about my own. But I'm not aware of cats being aware of what they look like. I'm not aware of cats worrying about whether, like, you've got a black cat, I can see. I've got a tabby mackerel. I used to have a ginger one. I've never seen them worry about the colour of their fur or their eyes or anything like that, but we do.
Well, this one that I've got 3, and this one that's in my arms, she got badly abused before she came to us, so she's got brain damage.
Like mackerel is the same.
But she never ever worries that her oddities are an issue. It's my fault if something goes wrong. It's not her fault because I'm fabulous. You know, it's that's the way she is, and why would she be any different? You know, and yeah, I think that's the way with.
We need to be like cats.
Yeah, in so many ways. Yeah, but I think it is a human construct, isn't it? That, you know, I was on a call yesterday. I was on this international symposium talking about body positivity. And we were talking about, well, who's going to make money out of all of my insecurities? We're told to feel insecure about ourselves, because if we don't feel insecure, we're not going to be buying that £60 face cream or that cellulite cream or whatever, because we're okay with it, you know. And that's something else I try to get people to think about is, you know, who's benefiting from you feeling miserable? And nearly always it's never them.
No.
You know, it's never the individual that's benefiting.
But the issue is that we have very negative self-talk.
Absolutely. And it's hard to overcome that. But it's also, again,
awareness, catching yourself when you do it.
Yeah, but it's also, as women especially, and I think perhaps increasingly more so in men, but in women, we're often told that we can't brag about our achievements. We can't feel pride. We can't be loud. We can't celebrate who we are, because so many people still think we should be quiet, you know. So it's the whole, men are assertive and they have leadership skills. Women are bossy and aggressive. They're doing exactly the same thing. And again, it's about that acceptance, isn't it? You know, I'm not a bossy person, but I can be assertive if I have to be. And that shouldn't be held against me. And I think that's something that we carry around in our heads. You know, perhaps it's the women in our families that we grew up with, or perhaps it's what we see around us. But if you're there going, oh, I did really good at that, you think, oh, people think I'm so arrogant if I say that. Well, why shouldn't we celebrate it? You know, if you're good at it, talk about it, you know, enjoy it. And again, you'll get people that judge you for that, but they're not your people. There will be people that celebrate you for that, and be with them. They're the ones that will be your own cheerleading squad.
And I think the other thing as well, you know, if someone pays you a compliment, you will naturally dismiss it. It's just a thing. Oh, no, it's not. It's nothing. But if someone criticizes you, you're going to carry that for days.
That's why I encourage people to accept compliments. That's one of the things I did for myself, is I would say, if someone paid me a compliment, rather than dismiss it, I would say thank you. And I didn't believe it. And then I got to the stage where I still didn't believe it, but I believed they believed it. And then I got to the stage where I just thought, oh, they're saying it must be true. And I think that's something we need to do as well with a compliment.
I was just about to say, we need to also compliment ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just in our own head.
Yeah, but with a compliment, we shouldn't. If someone was giving you a gift and you just went, what, this silly old thing, and threw it aside, they would be mortally offended and you would feel really rude. But that's what a compliment is. It's a gift, you know. And I love complimenting random strangers, even in this time. You know, when I'm standing on the doorstep and I'm chatting to a friend, you know, a metre away, and people will walk past and I really like your hair, love those glasses, those boots, fabulous, you know, and to still spread that, so that, you know, quite often we do only hear the negative. Like you say, the negative, someone saying, oh, your arse looks big in that, they won't then hear all of the other, but goodness, it looks good, or that shirt, brilliant. They won't hear all that. They'll be focused on the negative. So I think it's really important to pay ourselves compliments, but also to pay other people where there's nothing in it for you, just to
make them feel good.
Make that help them. It might be the only nice thing they hear all day. And as a stranger, there's no reason why. I think sometimes we can also, they're only saying that because they want something from me. They're only saying that because they're being nice and they know that I look awful, but they're trying to cheer me up. But if it's a random stranger, what am I getting from telling someone their hair looks fabulous? You know, it's not going to make, well, other than feeling good that I've said something nice to someone, but it's not like there's an ulterior motive. You know, that person's in my life for 2 seconds, you know, and it's just about helping people think, well, if a random stranger thinks my hair looks good and they don't have a reason to tell me that, then I must look good. And it's about getting those messages and believing them.
Exactly. Well, Vie, believe it or not, we're already getting towards the end of our time together. So what is your last pearl of wisdom for today?
A lot of what I do is firmly based in kindness and acceptance. And when I work with any age, and I work with children from 4 up to women of whatever age, is be kinder and more accepting. And that's kinder and more accepting of yourself and kinder and more accepting of others. And the world can only be a better place if we're all happier with who we are and happier with who everyone else is as well.
Yeah, and I'll just add something to that. You wouldn't want someone to try and change you, so don't try and change someone else.
If you're with someone and they're not who you want them to be, then you're with the wrong person.
Exactly.
You know, so yes, you can change them, you can leave them, change them leaving their dirty pants on the floor, but not a personality trait. You know, it's just know that we're not all, like I said earlier, we can't all be the right person for everybody, and we're not the right person for everybody, and not everybody's right for us. And knowing that's okay.
Yeah, completely. Well, Vie, thank you so much for your time today.
Having me.
And for everybody else, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, then please subscribe, leave us a review, but more importantly, come back for the next episode. Thank you.